Welcome back. All right, today we are diving deep into one of the toughest, most personal challenges to faith there is. That profound, echoing silence of God. Especially when we feel like we need to hear a voice the most.
You know the feeling, right? It cuts across every line of belief or non-belief. It's that experience of crying out into what feels like a void, particularly when you're suffering or you're lost, and just hearing nothing back. It's a deeply human and often a really painful moment.
But here's what's so fascinating. The major Abrahamic traditions, they don't run from this experience. They don't pretend it doesn't exist. No, they actually walk right up to it, and they give this agonizing silence a name, a context, and even a meaning.
And to really get our heads around this, we're going to look at some of the most powerful, most stark images for this divine quiet, starting with the Jewish and Christian traditions. And believe me, they do not pull any punches.
Okay, so this first metaphor, it comes from the rabbinic tradition, and it is incredibly potent. I mean, it's designed to capture a sense of total, unbreakable separation. So picture this. After the destruction of the Second Temple, an absolutely catastrophic event in Jewish history, the rabbinic sages felt this profound disconnection. And to put words to it, they came up with this image from the Talmud. An iron wall had just slammed down between Israel and their Father in heaven. It's a metaphor of complete finality, the idea that your prayers are literally hitting a wall and just falling right back down, unheard. And then you have this. In the Christian tradition, this might be the most ultimate expression of spiritual abandonment you could ever imagine. This is the cry of dereliction from the cross. And think about it. This isn't just any follower feeling lost. This is the central figure of the faith, in his moment of absolute suffering, crying out that he feels completely and utterly forsaken by God. Okay, so this slide right here really frames the core tension of this entire discussion. The felt reality, what it feels like in our hearts, is a God who is distant, silent, maybe even gone. But is that the theological reality? Or is there something way more complex and maybe even more profound happening just behind that silence?
And this is where it gets so interesting. Because the very same rabbinic tradition that gave us that harsh image of the iron wall, well, it also provides a stunning and maybe even surprising counter-narrative.
This is such a radical reframing. The idea of the Shekinah, that's the indwelling divine presence, going into exile with the people of Israel, that changes everything. It means God isn't just watching the exile from some distant, safe heaven. No, the divine presence is down in the mud, experiencing the pain and the displacement right alongside the people.
So the crucial point here is that what feels like divine absence is actually reinterpreted as a hidden form of divine solidarity. The silence isn't abandonment. It's the quiet companionship of someone who is right there with you in the struggle.
Now, the Quran also addresses this feeling of divine silence, but it uses an equally powerful metaphor. This one isn't about companionship in exile, though. It's about a kind of radical, almost shocking closeness. Just think about that image for a second. It's incredible. It's saying that even when you don't feel a response, Allah's presence and knowledge are more intimate to you than your own lifeblood. Your jugular vein is absolutely essential for your life, and God is closer than that. It suggests a proximity that is total, whether you can perceive it or not. And from this Islamic perspective, divine silence often has a purpose. It's not a sign of absence. It's a test. The Quran teaches that trials are a given, that they're meant to refine your belief. And crucially, that Allah never burdens a soul with more than it can bear. So the silence is like a crucible, not a punishment.
So, what do we have? We have these incredibly powerful and sometimes conflicting ideas. An iron wall, a cry of total abandonment, a presence that's right there with you in exile, and a closeness more intimate than your own pulse. So how do we put all these pieces together?
Well, this table just illustrates that dynamic perfectly. Look, each tradition fully 100% acknowledges the raw pain of the experience, the wall, the cry, the test. But each one also offers this powerful theological assurance that what you feel isn't the whole story. The wall, it turns out, actually conceals a shared exile. The cry of being forsaken is actually the path to resurrection. And the test is always supported by an unbreakable closeness.
And let's be really clear here. None of these are simple solutions. They don't try to explain away the pain with some neat little formula. They don't really answer the why question in a way that just makes all the suffering suddenly okay.
So what you should really take away from this is that these ideas are like theological tools for endurance. They're frameworks for how to keep faith when you can't see or hear a thing. They help you recategorize the pain, To see it not as lonely abandonment, but as shared exile, not as total absence, but as a hidden presence, not as a lack of care, but as a profound test that calls you to trust what you cannot see.
And ultimately, that's what it becomes. Faith, in the face of silence, is less about getting answers and more about just trusting a relationship. It's a commitment to believe that the silence isn't a slammed door. It's more like a pause in the conversation, and it is definitely not the end of the story.
And so these ancient traditions leave us with a really provocative thought. Instead of us always asking, why is God silent, they push us toward a totally different question. If the silence isn't an absence, if it's a shared exile or a hidden presence or a profound test, then what is it asking of us? Maybe the silence itself is the call, a call to develop a deeper, more resilient, and way more courageous form of faith.